might not have anything to do with what actually happened. And so you get all these theories and all these stories out there, right? And that's the one thing you don't want, because people's imaginations go, they think they saw something, they heard something, and they saw something, and they start passing it along. It's like that telephone game, right? You tell somebody one thing, they pass it along. It's always losing some of the truthfulness of the facts as it gets passed to each different person. And so if you can figure out a way to divert people away from that, have your security team come in and say, all right, let's back it up. We're going to take this. You can tell them, hey, this is for safety precautions for you and for the person that, is involved in this situation. And set up some barriers so that people can't just sit there and watch and take pictures and things like that. And then from a perspective, obviously people are going to want to know what happened. Oftentimes, if it is called out to EMS and the police, it's going over police scanners. The media outlets in every state and every city monitor those. So they're going to know about it. There's a chance they might show up on property. And again, if they do, your team needs to know, if the media shows up, who do you direct them to? Is it the owners? Do you have a marketing PR person on as part of the staff? Is there a general manager? Who is it that you can direct that person to? And that person will be the one that has all the information and can go through and decide, okay, what do we share? How much information do we give out? You don't want to speculate. You can confirm, yes, there was an accident. We are gathering details. We don't know everything yet. We'll share that when we do. But we've turned this over to the police. This is a police and EMS matter. They're handling the situation. We are cooperating with them. Our primary concern is the safety and well-being of our guests. And so we're doing everything in our power to make sure that they get the treatment that they need. Typically, news media moves quickly. There's always something that's going to draw the media's attention. If you do decide to give some information out, again, make sure it's accurate. Don't release anything. If there's something you don't want people to know, don't tell them. You are always on the record when the media shows up and starts asking questions. Once they start asking, if it's just, they're recording, anything is subject to be online or as part of their news story. So make sure you're giving out relevant information. Don't give out too much. If you don't know something, don't guess. Stick to the facts, keep it simple. And then if there is an opportunity to come back and give more details, you can certainly do that. But oftentimes, if it is a police matter or there's EMS has been called and the police are there, they will oftentimes handle a lot of that situation, right? They'll take over and you can cooperate with them, make sure you know what they're saying, you give them the information. If there's team members that they need to talk to gather that information, make them available. But also with those team members, tell them, yes, talk to the police, give them the information, but don't go around telling friends and family and posting on social media. Don't do any of those types of things. Let's keep this bottled up so that respecting the privacy of whoever was injured or involved in that crisis, but then also making sure that non-factual information is not being spread or disseminated.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, great information. And like you said, even keep your staff informed, let them know, exactly what happened so they don't have theories and start posting or, like you said, the phone game where by the time it gets back around and all. So if they know about
people sometimes get excited. They know what happened. There was an event. It's exciting sometimes, or you want to share that information because I saw this, I know this. You might know some of that information, but be careful where you post it. Social media is a wonderful tool. It can be very helpful, very beneficial. But if you're sharing that information, you have to be very careful. Yeah. You don't want to be the source of giving out inaccurate or wrong information. I tell people all the time, there are certain things that you can and you should post. If you're an employee and hey, our season opens on September 26th at 7 p.m. Here's how you where you go get tickets. If there's some kind of promotional thing or a special event or, please share that information. That's awesome. If you're there and you take a picture opening night, it's like, hey, excited to be back at, whatever haunt it is. And you got a picture of the facility, whatever. Post that kind of stuff. It's fun, right? Hey, so great to see, people that I worked with at the haunt last season. It's, it's so great to be back with family, whatever it is. Those things are awesome. And if people have questions, they know you work there and they reach out, hey, where do I go to get tickets? Please do answer those types of things. But if there's a crisis, you might have access to some of that information as an employee, but please don't be sharing that out.
Which actually leads right into my next question is social media, the crisis, within a crisis.
Yep.
So, I mean, especially now we're all vulnerable to the social media and the camera right in our faces all the time. So sometimes the public learns about an incident before management even knows about it. And
Yes.
so when should an attraction respond online and when should it remain silent, I guess, is a good question.
Depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But I do think once you know what the situation is and you understand that you feel like you have enough facts. If you hear something, you have no idea what's going on, I would wait to respond until you know. The worst thing is to make a statement or say something and be wrong because you're not informed or you don't know. The temptation is to respond quickly. Yeah, you want to be quick, but you want to be accurate because you only get kind of that one chance to make that first impression and give the right information.
Yeah. Is there ever a too quick response? I guess is a good question.
Yeah, if you're giving out bad or inaccurate information, yes.
Okay.
I think it's worth taking a few extra minutes just to understand and ask some important questions. And you look at those questions as like the who, what, where, when, why, and how. What happened? How did this happen? Why did it happen? There might be information that you can't give out because if it's a police matter or something like that, if it's an ongoing active investigation, you need to know that information too, right? And so you're going to communicate with the police, and they'll likely tell you, don't give this information out. We cannot give it out. And the quickest and easiest way to kind of express that is we are cooperating with the police, giving them all the information that we can. We're answering their questions. We want a quick and easy, a quick resolution to this, and we want it to be accurate. We're supporting the police. And I think oftentimes the media, especially, they understand what that means, right? They know. Yeah. They might press and ask additional questions and like try to dig and get more information. But oftentimes, if you're saying something like that, hey, we are working with the police, we're giving them their information, we're cooperating with them, they know what that means. Really, it means, yeah, something did happen. They're investigating it and it's their investigation. And then they can go and try to get more information out of the police.
Yep. So what happened or what should you do if somebody starts spreading incorrect information, like on social or whatever? Do you delete those comments or what do you do?
It depends. If it's employees, I would go directly to them and be like, whoa, stop doing this. You are giving out the wrong information. This is doing more harm than it is good. I recommend internally with your team, you have a social media policy where it outlines like, here is the information that you can give out or share and things like that. Most of the time you don't want videos online of the entire haunt or the entire attraction, so an employee going through and recording it all live. Tell them what they can and cannot post, right? If you take pictures, oftentimes there's great spots at a haunt where you can take some pictures and you do that kind of, please share all that information.
Yeah.
That type of stuff, hours about, the attraction, where to go to get tickets, cost of tickets, if it's factual information, share it. But if there's a crisis going on, oftentimes, like I said, the biggest desire is people want to be helpful. They want to, hey, I saw this. I want to share this so people know. You might think if it's, but you might be giving out wrong information. So if there is a crisis, tell them part of our policy is do not share that. If there's something that needs to be shared, we will do that from the organization, from the company. And then I tell people all the time too, put together a statement. This is something that could be shared with the media if they ask, or if you feel like, hey, we need to put something out on social media in response to this. And that statement should be very brief and very factual, sticking to kind of what how it happened, those critical questions of who, what, where, what, when, why, and how. Provide that information. And then again, I think the temptation, you get this with whether it's a media interview, if the press calls up and they start asking questions, or on social media, if you've given the information, if it's accurate and factual, stick to that statement. People are always going to ask additional questions, but the temptation is to address every single question that comes up. You start doing that, that's going to take a lot of time. And there might be instances where you get tripped up and you give out information you shouldn't, or you get frustrated with somebody. That's not, you don't want to do that either. It's a stressful time when you have these crises come up. The more you can just provide a statement and stand by it, the better. It's when
Yeah.
people start asking questions or criticizing or whatever, that you start to
Yeah.
get frustrated. You start to get defensive, like, hey, this is my baby. Don't be
Yeah.
doing that to my baby, right?
Right.
The statement, if you give the right information, you will allow it to stand. Give the
So,
statement, issue the
so
statement,
don't
and
start arguing with somebody in your comments or anything, maybe on a post or something, I guess.
no, it's very rare that that's going to do anything beneficial.
Right.
You might be upset. The person you're talking to is going to get upset, get frustrated. And once you get mad and like it gets emotional,
Yep.
then that's when you start saying things that you think, oh, you look back on it and think that wasn't helpful. I shouldn't have said that. So
Yep.
the more that you can kind of remain, stick to the facts, the basic information, the better.
Gotcha. Yep. So basically the thing we've both kind of dropped on so far is every haunt, every attraction should have a crisis communication kit, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yes.
So what all would you recommend to have in their kit of PR crisis management?
Very good. Yeah, great question. Again, I would look at it from a perspective of identifying the spokespeople
Mhm.
who can talk about this issue. And in a crisis, it should be limited, very, very limited in the number of people that are going to respond to questions. I would say ownership. Maybe if there's a GM that is really, dialed in and knows the information, that person too. But the challenge you run into, the more people you get involved, the more the story can evolve and change, and the facts kind of go a little bit awry. So you limit that. I tell people all the time, like your staff should be educated about the haunt.
Mhm.
And this means like, anybody that walks up off the street, hey, where do I go? What's your website? What are your hours? How do I buy tickets? What days are you open? What's the schedule? They should know all that information. They should give it out gladly, right? If people are asking those types of questions, you want those types of questions. They're interested, right? They might come and, buy a ticket or whatever. Please do give that information out. Share it, share it on your social media, share it when people walk up and ask, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
But when there's a
It's
crisis and something has gone wrong, they should all know, number one, who do we turn to? If I get a question, how do I respond to that? And I think the easiest way to do that is something along the lines of, if I get asked a question where I don't know the information or I'm not the spokesperson, it's a crisis, I can say something along the lines of, you know what? I'm not the right person to answer that question, but I can certainly put you in touch with the person that is.
right.
And they should know who that person is. How do we get in touch with them? Don't give out a
and
cell phone
knowing the
number.
knowing the
Yeah.
policies and all that, knowing who your HAA contact person is, because
Yes.
that's part of your membership. You get a PR
Yes.
consultant. So knowing those things is helpful.
Yeah. If you're going through the crisis, the one thing you don't want somebody to do as well is like, hey, call them on a cell phone right now. You're going to be dealing with a lot of different things, and and you don't want calls from the general public coming in. You don't want your cell phone out there where everybody's trying to
Right.
call and get the information. Similarly, like if the media, if they start calling,
Yeah.
you want to be able to respond to them or give them a statement, whatever the case is. If you're swamped with all these calls coming in and you miss that call, the last thing you want is the press to say, hey, we reached out to so-and-so and got no response.
Yep.
So they should know, okay, there is these questions. Who is the contact person? How do they reach out to them? Is there a phone number? Is there an email address? Something along those lines where if somebody does call, can they get an answer? And is that the right person? So the team needs to know that. They need to know their role in a crisis. If this happens, what's your social media policy? And again, the policy is, if things are going great, they're just asking questions about the season. What do I share? How can I share that information? But in a crisis, they need to know, okay, this just happened. People are asking me questions. Who do I direct them to?
Gotcha.
You brought up a really good point too, as part of your membership with the HAA. I know Jim makes my number, my contact information available.
Yes.
So call. If you've got questions like, hey, this just happened, I'm not quite sure what to do. How do I respond to this? Or I'm thinking this, is that right? Call me. I'm happy to jump on a call. and walk through those situations, right? We had one, I'm trying to think, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now. I think it was a Sunday morning, early. It was like 7 a.m. Hunt called and said, "Hey, I got your number from Spence, who was the previous president. He said to call you. This is what happened." And we took 15 minutes to kind of walk through, ask the questions. When did it happen? Who was involved in this? And they walked me through the scenario. What made this? It was a situation where some guests came through. They saw part of the attraction. There was something that happened in the community. They were a little bit sensitive to it and expressed their displeasure with it and threatened to go to the media.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's address it. Like who was this that said it? How did your team respond to this? Let's put together a basic statement of what happened and then kind of what's the resolution to this. In this situation, it was really quite simple. It was like, yes, we put this in months ago. This situation happened here locally, and we can see where there's some sensitivity to that. We want to be respectful of it. They simply altered the scene. It was pretty quick and easy. And the statement, it was like, the team was a little upset, like, "Oh, we didn't mean that," and no, you don't. But there's a really good, simple, basic way to say something like that, right? Hey, this came up. We had planned this in advance. We didn't anticipate this. Looking at what happened in the community, yes, we've gone ahead and removed that and changed that aspect of the haunt. We want to be sensitive to our community and their concerns and things like that. But the statement is very brief. It's a couple sentences. People think, oh, I got to put this statement out and give all the facts and rehash all this. No, don't try to do that. That's where it gets ambiguous. You want to stick to the facts, make it very brief, very concise.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's the beauty of having the membership. If you don't know, call somebody that does. We'll walk through that, right?
Yep, totally. And you're a great resource, and we appreciate you. Totally.
Yeah, no, I deal with this kind of stuff a lot, and I've done it for several years. And the one thing I think that is nice as well, often your haunt is your baby. You've started it, you've grown it, it's your baby. You are very protected, and you should be. But there's also that emotional component that gets into it, and you want to protect it, which is good. You should. But at the same time, sometimes that emotion can get in the way and make you do things that you probably wouldn't or shouldn't do. And so I care deeply, but I'm also a little bit detached from it. It's not my baby. And I can help you get through that and say, okay, I get what you're saying. Let's say it this way. Let's communicate this way. It'll be more effective this way. The message will get across. It's not going to be combative. It's not going to come across as emotional or that you're attacking somebody for it. So there's those benefits of being able to have somebody that gets the industry, is passionate about it as well, but it can remove some of the emotion.
So I'm going to bring up the other demon in the room, is that employee that has those 8,000 TikTok followers at 17 and all of a sudden becomes your spokesperson in the 30 seconds because he did a TikTok talking about the thing that he shouldn't be talking about. So what can you teach your seasonal employees about social media and crisis communication?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because so many people, that age group, they're dialed in, right? And they have a following. That's where it becomes important. Have that policy in place and share it with them before the season even starts. Hopefully people are doing training with the employees, like, here's how you can and cannot scare people. Here's the things that you should and should not be saying. You should have that social media policy that says, hey, if something happens at the haunt, there's some kind of a crisis or an accident, don't pull your phone out and start videoing this. That is not your role. If you post that, they need to understand, like I've told people in the past, other companies and other haunts, like that could be cause for termination because it causes problems. You don't want that out there. So you let them know like right up front, like, hey, this is the policy. This is what you do and you do not do. Don't pull that phone out. I know it's tempting. Do not do that, please.
So basically see it, record it, but don't post about it.
Yeah. Don't post about it. That's going to cause more damage, and that's going to hurt more than anything else. We've had people sign agreements saying, I understand and will follow this policy.
Great.
So I mean, The key
And
is
just
making
because a
sure they
reporter
understand
stops
before
them
you.
doesn't mean they have to answer them, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. And like I said, just refer to management whenever situations like that happen.
Yep.
Um,
I would say too, if there is a situation, kind of going back to your initial scenario,
yeah.
something happens, it's right out there in the middle of everything, and there's people around and things like that. We talked about kind of diverting people so that you're taking that away from them. One of the most effective things I saw at another event, it was a live event. They had a stage where people were up dancing and kind of performing, and they had a gal that got up there, and in the process of dancing, she fell.
Oh,
And initially, nobody knew exactly what had happened. She just dropped.
right.
And it turned out like people rushed up onto stage that were part of the event, and they asked. It like nobody knew. She just dropped. And I think there was initial concern, like, is she having like a heart attack or something like that, a medical thing? And what happened? She had twisted, and her knee gave out, and she just dropped. And so as they discovered what happened, um, they actually did something very smart. They had people come out from the staff and stand like in front of it to kind of block it. So as they had medical personnel come out and like ask her, like, what happened? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Evaluating what happened. They had people out there standing in front of her so that, she wasn't being watched by thousands of people.
Right.
But then the MC, he diverted people's attention away from it. He actually got off stage and he had them engage in another activity. He went to the very back. So everybody turned around, which was genius.
Yeah.
But there are ways that you can do that kind of stuff. But the one thing I would tell you as well, if you're in that situation, we've seen this in politics with people saying stuff and it being recorded by fans or attendees. You're always on the record. So be careful what information you're sharing with, whether it's your teammates or the police. If it's a private conversation, find a private spot or find a spot where like, okay, not everybody's hearing this conversation. I remember years ago when Mitt Romney was running for president, he made a comment. I forget exactly what the comment was, but he was talking to who he thought obviously was a close, trusted friend. Somebody was going to donate and give him money for his campaign. He made the comment, something about how, there's a certain percentage of Americans that just didn't want to work. They were lazy. And somebody there at the table recorded it on their phone, social media, right? If there's information you don't want getting out to the public, be careful who you're saying these types of things around. Everybody's got that phone. They might be recording you. So if there's something that's confidential, find a quiet spot, or don't say anything until like, okay, we've diverted all these people away from this activity. The people that are here now are the people that need to be here. And we trust and can know this information. You can have that conversation. But if you're standing at an airport, you're talking about somebody who's sitting next to you, who's hearing this, what could they do with it? If you're at the haunt and there's a crisis or something's happened, you want to keep that information very private. One of the quickest ways to make sure it goes public is to talk about it openly in front of people where they might be pulling out their phone and recording it.
Yeah. Oh. And you also need to know when you're out of your depth. Not every problem is a crisis sometimes, but there's also somebody complaining about the line being too long or other things.
Yes.
But there are potential crisis triggers like a fatality, serious injuries, a fire, major evacuation, a police investigation like we were talking about. So my question, I guess, for you is, at what point should an attraction owner stop trying to handle the situation themselves and call a crisis professional?
Yeah. I think to your example, if it's people are complaining about long lines, is that a crisis? No, it's an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And I think part of what you do, again, before the season starts, as part of that training program, is talk about some of these things, right? If it's people complaining about long lines, no, I would not say that's a crisis. To go back to your initial example, if somebody is in line and something happens, they collapse or they whatever, that could be a crisis, depending on what happens, right? If there's a fire, if there's an auto accident, or I'm just trying to think of some of the things, I don't want to jinx anything, but thinking out loud of some of the things that could happen. If there's a fight, if somebody pulls a knife, heaven forbid any of these things happen, but identify what could be a crisis. You can't identify every single thing that could happen on any given night, but make that part of your plan and part of your training. Hey, is it cold? Is it too hot? People, I'm trying to think some of the things that maybe aren't a crisis. Again,
Right.
yeah, it's a long line. No, that's an inconvenience. And coach your people on how do you respond to those types of things, right?
Right.
If it is something, and there is a question like, this just happened. We had a haunt a couple years ago. Outside the haunt, there was a road, and I forget all the details, but there was a pretty serious auto accident. Somebody hit something, and the car went airborne, and it got launched over cars that are parked along the side of the street. And it was right outside the haunt, and the person driving the car, I want to say it was a fatal accident. The police were there, and of course, it went out over this, the police scanners, and they showed up very quickly, and roped off the scene, made sure it was safe. But again, it was like, hey, this just happened outside the haunt. Is this our problem? And somebody called and asked me, and I said, no. You're probably going to see if the media shows up. They'll probably do some filming. They'll probably show the haunt in the background as a way of saying, this is where it happened. People know the haunt. They're using it as a landmark in a sense, but you don't have anything to do with that, right? So if the police need something from you, be cooperative, helpful, right? Do what you can to support them in their investigation and things like that. But again, let your team know on something like that. No, you don't say anything. If people ask, you let them know, hey, this is a police matter. Or if it's, hey, let's divert the line away from this for safety reasons and things like that. Communicate that to your team. That's always something. The more you can communicate and let them know, the better. I see Mike's got this question here. He dropped it into the chat. Do you reinforce that policy when something happens? Yes, I would. I would let them know, like if something does happen, hopefully there's ways of communicating with the team, radios and things like that. Let them know, hey, this just happened. You probably got team leads that can spread it to their team and let them know, hey, this just happened and things like that. And just a quick reminder, if there are questions, push it this way. Don't speculate, things like that. Part of this question, he says, I worry that even after telling them ahead of time, in the moment, they still might talk to a reporter or post something.
Yeah.
That could always happen. But the hope is that you've communicated enough and trained them well enough in advance that they know what the policy is. They know what the procedure is, right? But you can always provide those reminders. And if something does happen, whatever that situation is, communicate that with the team. Let them know so that they are prepared, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where people are at in the haunt or whatever, some people might not know about it. Actors inside, if they're acting, they're entertaining people, they might not know about it, right? So if you can communicate some of these things and let them know, hey, this just happened, it might slow people down coming through. There might be a gap, or if somebody asked, send it our way, send it to this person.
Yep. No, and I mean, like we had an incident last year in our haunt, and nobody knew about it, but the people that were in that area. We took care of the incident, everything, and at the end of the night, we had a post discussion and explained to everybody what had happened, and they were like, "I had no idea," and we said that's why we do the things the way we do. So the only people that knew about it were the people who needed to. So
several years ago, it seemed like this popped up quite a bit. And I don't know if it was a social media trend or it probably kind of was that where it kind of caught on and people started doing it. But there were people that would go through haunted houses, and as they were going through, they would punch the actors and record themselves doing this, right? That's not cool. That nobody wants that, right? As things come up, you might plan for like, okay, what if there's a fire? What if there's, somebody, there's a medical emergency, somebody has a heart attack or a stroke, whatever it is. You can kind of plan for some of those types of things. But if it's something like this that kind of came up mid-season where people were going through and, punching actors, you might not have planned for that. But if you start hearing about those things, ask them, figure it out, put together a plan, add that to your plan and say, hey, we've heard this is happening. If it happens here, this is how we'll handle it. And then share that with the team. So there's always going to be things that kind of come up over the course of a season, but, be aware of those things and share. And again, if there's questions like, hey, what if this happens? What do we do? You're welcome to call me. I'm happy to walk through any of these situations. Even if people call, I think the one thing I tell people is, if you're just not sure, you can call. I'm happy to tell you. All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is probably a 2, right? Or this is not
Right.
that big a deal. Here's what I would recommend. I would hate for people to feel like, boy, I just don't know if I should call. If you
Yeah.
and it turns out to be a big thing, right? If
And
you
that
got
leads into my question I was literally fixing to ask you is what mistakes do you see organizations make because they waited too long to reach out
yes,
to you?
address it.
Yeah.
If there's something happening, address it. Um, my hope and the hunts that I work with, I know a lot of them.
Mhm.
Their teams, during the show, they're communicating constantly.
Mhm.
Managers, team leads are reaching out. Hey, this just happened. What, just so everybody's aware or whatever, whether it's somebody that's inebriated on site or whatever that it is, they're communicating. And so
Right.
you're sharing that kind of stuff. And if it sounds like it's like, oh my gosh, that sounds really bad, talk to people and figure it out. Like, how bad is this? You might have to go to an actor and say, what happened? Talk to me, pull them out for a minute and get their statement and what really did happen. Ask questions. There's no
Right.
question that is too dumb or too stupid to ask. Always
Right.
ask questions. Get as much information as you can so you feel like you're prepared and you can make a decision. And then from a if you gather that information and you still have that question, like, I'm
Yeah.
just not sure how serious this is,
Yeah.
you're welcome to call. I'm happy to walk through it and say, okay, yeah, I would recommend you do this, or just let it go. Don't worry about it. That's not, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And that's what one of the benefits, like I said, to HAA has been a member. You don't have to handle this alone. We've got a
Yep.
team of owners. We have you on, that
Yep.
they can reach out to, because I mean, our goal from day one has always been to protect, promote, and educate the industry, and
Yep.
crisis management being from, protecting the industry.
Yeah. Mike has a question here in the chat. Is
Yeah.
there a barometer as to when to make a statement and when to leave it alone? I feel like sometimes when a business makes a statement, it draws more attention than the incident itself. Number one, if you think, oh, we should probably put something, we respond to this.
Yeah.
Don't proactively send anything out. I shared that example of I helped this hunt a few years ago where they had that scene that people took offense to. We did put together a statement. Part of it was they had media reaching out to them because the people threatened, we're going to go to the press, and they did. And so the media, it was a weekend, seasonal. There was a little bit of interest, and so the media did start reaching out to them. That could be a barometer, but unless they're asking the question, if something happens and there's no questions, why bring it up? Why say anything and draw attention to it? In the incident I said we just discussed with the hunt, we did put together a statement. There were 2 media outlets that had asked, and I said, send it to them and them only. If the other media outlets aren't asking, don't send it to them.
Right.
Did these people reach out to them too and they just didn't care? You don't even need to know that necessarily. Unless they're asking, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Right.
But if you get somebody to reach out and say, hey, we'd like to come over and do an interview. We heard about this incident that happened. Can you tell it? We want more details. Maybe. Okay. But a statement is a good way to say, we're not going to answer a lot of questions. We'll give you this basic information and we're going to leave it at that. Sometimes the interviews, you think, okay, we're going to talk about this, and it can turn into something else. And again, where it's your baby and you're passionate about it,
Yeah.
you might start getting frustrated by the questions. They might grill you a little bit. They might ask over and over again the same question. Sometimes it's hard to be civil when that kind of stuff happens. So a statement is a really good way to do that. I worked with the hunt a few years ago. They had a situation. It was in the summer.
Mhm.
They had a portion of their hunt that caught fire.
Oh.
And the fire was relatively small, but the black smoke billowing up from it was highly visual, right? People could see it. And it was by a busy road. And so there were some people that called in saying, hey, this hunt looks like it's on fire.
Mhm.
And of course, the media was on the police scanner. I started getting phone calls saying, hey, we heard the whole place burned down. I'm like, no,
No.
it did not, right? It was easy like to say, no, that is inaccurate. It
Right.
did not. And then one of the things that we actually did, they said, are you going to be able to open up for the season? September. We're like, yes, of course. It's
Yeah.
not as bad as what people are making it out to be. We actually decided, you know what? You want to come out and check it out for yourself? We'd love to have you. So we invited them out, and you could see where it was this little structure, it burnt, and we invited them out, and every media member that came out looked at it and was like, that's it? We're like, yeah,
That
that's
was
it.
it. Yeah.
And what was interesting too, after the fire got put out, the police or the fire department did an interview, and the media, of course, is asking. They're right outside the facility. They're asking how much damage was done, and the firefighter doing the interview said, like barely anything. He smiled. He says, like, I think he even said, my guess is if they were opening tomorrow for Halloween, they'd open. It is so minimal, like there was nothing. And so we kept pointing to that statement from the fire department. Like, here's the clip. You guys can watch it, right? But we did. We invited them out to look at it, to see for themselves.
Glad to hear it.
Yep. I lost you. Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Oh, you went away. I don't know. Maybe everybody can hear you, but I lost you. So
Sorry
maybe
about that.
me.
Yeah, I don't know how much you heard, but we did. We invited them out, the media out, to take a look at it.
Right.
And it actually turned out really good for us because the media came out and took a look at it. Even after the fire chief said there was such minimal damage to this, like
There were still rumors.
yeah, the media kept saying. I got calls the next day saying, "So are you guys going to be open to Halloween, or how many years will it be to rebuild?" And I said, "No years at all." And then they came out and looked at it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is nothing." And so a couple people did stories. Were like, "Yeah, we saw the smoke. Here's what it looks like." And they showed this little pile of burnt stuff, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's nothing." And it gave us a chance to say, "Hey, here's our plan. We're going to push all this stuff out of the. We could open tomorrow if we wanted to." And we gave them a chance to say, "Here's our plans. This is what we're planning for the new year. By the way, our season starts on this day. Here's where you go to get tickets." So we kind of flipped it that way.
Hey, I always tell people, I mean, most of the time, even bad media is good for a haunt because it makes people look at you for some reason. So just not real bad media. So
yeah, I think it gives you an opportunity to kind of clarify and give out the right information, and you can kind of turn it into a positive. Because sometimes people think, "Oh my gosh, this is such a big deal," and if it's not, let them know. There's nothing wrong with that. No, like with this fire, the first call I got, this reporter said, "How many years is it going to take to rebuild?" And I said, "Like 5 minutes." I said, "We're just basically going to push that stuff out of the way and dispose of it, so it's not people can walk through this alleyway or whatever." And they're like, "Really? We thought the whole thing burned down." I said, "No." I said, "You guys had a crew there. Why don't you go back and watch the video?" And they could see it. And then one said, "Can we come out and check it out?" We're like, "Yeah, come on out. We'd love to show you." And we took it as an opportunity. We said, "Here's what we're going to change for this season, and to make it really cool." They actually had a part of what they did. They kind of turned it into this. I'm trying to think how you describe it, but they turned it into this fire scene. It's not a real fire, obviously, but it's like you're walking through fire now. And it turned out people came through the next scene. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is where it happened. This is so cool." And they actually had wood that they had preserved and used in it, and people were taking pictures with it and things like that. So there are ways to turn something like that into a positive, especially if it's something that was such a minor thing.
I'm going to give you a quick rapid fire if you're ready for it. You ready?
Yes, sir.
See if I can answer it. So of course, a guest gets transported by ambulance, but the post is on social media, someone died at XYZ haunt tonight, but they didn't. So what do you do?
In a situation like that, I would clarify and I would probably respond and post back to that saying, "Yes, somebody did get transported. They're okay. You don't have to share details about this, what happened, what the incident was, but at least clarify, no, somebody did not die." If there's like an official report that the police have provided, you can share that. But something like that, if it's a miscommunication, I would clarify something like that and do it in a very professional, positive way. But again, you clarify and get out. It's not, okay, let's answer a whole bunch of questions like what happened? How did it happen? Can this happen again? Hey, there was something that did occur. Unfortunately, our primary concern is the safety of our guests. This did happen. The police responded. They escorted that person via whatever. But clarify, yes, nobody died.
Right. 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 All right. Here we go. Another one. An employee posts a video of an incident backstage before management releases anything. So now what do we do?
I would talk to that employee and first of all, like remove that, take that post down. But again, if you have that social media policy in place, you can go back and say, here's the policy.
Yep.
We went through this. You agreed to it. You signed the document saying you read and understood this and you would comply with it. You did not. Depending on what that is, maybe it is a cause for termination. Maybe it's just a stern warning of like, don't let it happen again. And I would be clear, like if it happens again, this could happen. Maybe it is termination, maybe it, whatever it is, but let them know.
Yeah. And it happens. So yeah.
Yeah.
What if the reporters all of a sudden show up after an incident and start asking employees questions? What should they be doing?
They should know if an employee or the media shows up and starts asking the questions, they are not the spokesperson. Who is? And how do you put them in touch with them? And do it quickly. Again, the easiest way to do something like that is be like, you know what? I'm not the right person to provide this information, but I'm happy to put you in touch with the person that is. You reach out to that person and that, let them facilitate it, handle it from there.
This is a tough one, but I know you got this. It's a former employee posts serious allegations against your attraction all over social media.
Again, I think it depends on what the allegations are, and are they getting a response out of it?
Well, it is. They're actually getting a
response out of it.
Yeah.
So people are asking. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I would be very careful, depending on what those allegations are. If there's any kind of legal ramifications, I would be very careful about what you say. And it might be, if you have an attorney, just consult with them. Like, this did not happen, but I would be very brief in any kind of response that I gave. But I would clarify with like a legal person. If there is legal ramifications, if you're dealing with an attorney, make sure you understand how you do that. Because if there's an active lawsuit or something like that, there are things that you probably can and cannot say. So I would confirm with like legal representation before I responded to any of those types of claims.
Gotcha. So respond publicly or investigate privately. You'd say kind of a both kind of situation, I guess.
Yes. Listen and gather the information. Make sure you're responding responsibly. The worst thing you could do is respond and cause more problems, incite more, animosity or more, negative comments and things like that. So be very careful about what you say. And again, anytime you make a statement, stick to the facts. Don't let emotion get involved, and know what you can and cannot say.
Yeah. And this one you've already probably covered, but I'm going to hit it again just for anybody that came in late or whatever. But police are at the attraction responding to an incident that didn't have nothing to do with the haunt, but somebody's videoed it and showing the haunt in the background and going, oh my God, there's something major happening at XYZ haunt tonight. How do you respond to that, or you just ignore it?
Yeah, I would be very cautious about responding, but yes, if it's nothing to do with you and you're just in the background because of the angle of the filming, I would point something like that out. Yes, the police were responding to another incident near the haunt, near our facility, near our location. We did not have anything to do this. We're aware of the situation. If you're cooperating or involved in anything with like providing video or testimonial of this is what our staff saw, that's fine. But I would not give out details. Don't speculate on anything if you don't know. But I would stick to here are the facts. It did not happen at our facility. It happened nearby. If you have further questions, please contact local authorities. They can give you more information.
Gotcha. Do you have any other tips or advice for the haunts out there that are, might run into something this season?
Yeah, I would. I think the biggest thing I would do if there is a situation, make sure you're asking the right questions. That who, what, where, when, why, and how. Make sure you understand those types of things so that you can make a fair assessment of like, okay, here's how we should respond to this. Here's how we can assess, is this on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, is this a 9? Is it a 2? And how should we respond to that? Take the time now to start thinking about some of these things. If they happen, does our team know what to do? Do we know what to tell our team to do? Do they know what our social media policy is? Do we have one? Have we communicated that to our team? If the media shows up or the police show up, do they know who to call?
Yeah.
Make sure you answer those types of questions, because often, like you said at the outset of this call, it is challenging when something goes, something happens. It's stressful. There's a lot of people coming at you wanting information, and it's very hectic. The more you can kind of plan in advance and know how you're going to respond or what the process is, the easier that'll make it. Yeah. It is, if something bad happens, it's never fun. But if you know, like, okay, this just happened, here's our policy, here's what we do, here's who we talk to.
Right.
You don't have to think about it so much. It's already there. You have that plan in place.
Right.
Hopefully you never have to deal with it. And then, like I said, having somebody, a resource that you can call if you're just not quite sure, like, what do I do? I would rather have people call and say, this just happened. I'm not quite sure. Is it really bad, or is this, what do we do? Maybe it's a quick 5-10 minute phone call. But I'd rather, like, okay, this is how we handle this, or we don't need to do anything. So there's never a dumb question. Ask questions. But so also take the time to think about these things, and you can't plan for everything, but, can you plan for an accident, or, something, certain things you can plan for, but kind of know, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, long lines, another crisis? No, it's an inconvenience. What are you going to do about that? Do you have something in place to do that? If the police show up, if there's some kind of an accident or whatever, how do you rate that, and how do you respond? And how does your team respond to that? They should know, if this happens, this is who we contact.
Right. So what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm wrong, you may be able to correct me here, but I'm going to kind of hit the highlights again for anybody. So basically, you need to have one spokesperson, or at least someone that everybody relays those messages to.
Yes.
Facts first. No matter what, you want the facts. You don't want a hearsay. You don't want anything like that. Don't speculate. Know the exact facts. Number 3, your employees need a crisis communication policy, and they probably need to sign off on it along with a social media policy.
Yep.
To protect you and all that, just so they're aware of how this could damage the haunt's reputation, and theirs even. So also prepare before opening night. Know who to contact, the communication chain, and not during an emergency, but know the process before it happens.
Yes.
And then number 5, if you're that HAA member, use the resources. All the owners within the HAA, and of course, Jeremy, who can literally be on your team and help resolve, or at least try to get you in the right direction anytime you run into a crisis management situation.
Yes. Yep. I think, my policy has always been, I know during the season, hours are crazy. Call.
Yeah.
If I don't pick up, I will call, leave a message. I will call back. You can text me. I will call back as quickly as possible. I know that it's stressful for people. And, I think oftentimes, if it's something where it's like, okay, that's not really that big a deal, this is what I would do. Or this is a big deal, this is what I recommend, and we can work through this, right? Knowing there's comfort in that, right? And knowing that you have somebody that can help.
Knowing you got a whole team of people behind you, and then you have all the processes and the the situations at play, and your team knows all the rules and things. I think that's the big key that we're basically discussed tonight.
Yep.
Knowing the facts, and knowing you got a team and a support system along with the HAA. So.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. Did we have any other questions? Let's see. I see Mike had something, but I think you answered those, didn't you?
I think we did. Yeah. I think the one thing I would also add to that too is, and this has been my experience, in almost 30 years of PR and crisis communications, is, knowledge is half the battle, right? If you have the information, even if you have a plan in place and you never have to use it, at least it's there.
Right.
I tell people all the time, like, having it there, there's comfort in knowing it's there. so that if you do need to respond, I would rather take the time, put the investment and effort into putting a plan together and having this stuff in place and never having to use it than just like not being prepared and something comes up and I'm like, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah. What do we do? A flow chart. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we did answer this one about Mike asked, do you reinforce that policy when something does happen? He's worried even after telling them ahead of time, in the moment they still might talk to a reporter or post something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely reinforce it. The other thing that you can, if you hear of stuff like other haunts where they've had situations or things have come up, if there's trends nationally that you're hearing about, or if the HAA brings something up like, hey, be aware of this, share that information. Let them know like, hey, this is something that's, a trend that's going on in haunted houses this year. Let them know. And if this happens, we have this policy in place. This is what your responsibility, your role is. I think if something does happen in the moment, again, communicating it, let your team know, hey, this just happened, reminding them, right? Like your ability to do that, you have a radio that you're communicating with the team on a regular basis. Even if they just know, hey, this happened, they might not know all the details. They're still managing and doing their roles, responsibilities. But if they know, then it kind of is that reminder, like we've talked about this. Here's what I need to do, right? It might have happened at a way, the other side of the haunt or the attraction, whatever, but, they might not know about it, but, or be dealing with it, hands-on. But if they know, that's the reminder, right?
Yeah. And like you said, at your post or your pre-meeting the following day going, hey, just a reminder of the policies here, I don't think it ever hurts because our facility, we're not allowed to have any drugs or alcohol. And so we always had to tell them at the beginning of the year, it's like, hey, whatever you do at home is all up to that, but we can't have that here because our building's owned by a pastor. So, it's like, has he ever caught alcohol or drugs in the building? We're gone, So hey, I appreciate all your help. If anybody ever needs anything, they can reach out to us, or if you're an HAA member, contact Jeremy. And we appreciate your time. We value it very much. We appreciate it so much, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me on, Todd. I appreciate it, and looking forward to working with everybody this season. Hopefully, I don't
take care. Hopefully, we don't talk to you. I hope.
Yeah, hopefully you don't talk to me, but I am here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.